Come on, more. Don't be like that.
Like what?
Like,
No, but you kind of have to have like a good first
just take a picture.
shot.
Look, Cello is there. Take a picture. There we go. Cello!
Hello, everybody. This is Kaitlyn, co-founder at Face the Fear, and I am here with my very handsome fiance, Carlos. We are driving we're driving from Texas to Michigan this weekend. I am moving up there as we start our lives together, and this back here is my very handsome cat Lou. So he will probably make an appearance or two in this video as well. So why don't we just get started with some questions? So this last week I asked our Face the Fear followers to just send us any questions they have about Carlos and I as far as our relationship, our upcoming marriage and wedding, and any questions kind of in regards to like the financial aspect of that as well. And this just goes along with the whole wedding series that we have going on with Face the Fear. So since I am personally engaged and we are planning a wedding right now, I figured it would be kind of fun to take you along our personal journey and talk a little bit about what our experience has been like, and hopefully in some way it will help somebody else who's also working on planning a wedding and kind of starting this new chapter of their life as well. So to kickstart this, one of the first comments I got on my post was, "Wait, you got engaged?"
Yep. We did.
We did get engaged back in October of last year. Carlos, who has been living in Michigan for the last 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, like almost exactly. Flew down to Texas and completely surprised me. I was falling asleep and suddenly there was a shadow of a man like standing in my doorway, and I think I almost peed my pants. But he just flew down, and then we spent the weekend together, went to see a concert at a old dance hall in Texas, and when we came back home, he popped the question on the driveway, and it was very sweet and very romantic, and just couldn't have been a more perfect way to do it. So
You did a good job.
you did a good job. So yes, we are engaged. We are getting married August 22nd of this year. And our next question is, how did you meet?
We met in college. Kaitlyn and I, we both went to the same school, and I had already graduated for about a year, and she was still, I think, finishing her junior year.
But that's not how we first met. That was the second time.
Well, the first time we didn't meet, I was just trying to approach you, but nothing really happened.
So the first time we actually met, like face to face, I was working as a like front desk person at our college dorm, and my college dorm, and he had several friends that lived in my same dorm, so he was going to visit them, and he, I guess, walked in and saw me and thought, oh, I want to talk to that girl. So I just remember seeing him leave the building, and most times people leaving, just, I say, you know, have a good night, and they'll just sort of like look and smile, or, you know, basically just carry on their way, nothing special. When I saw him leaving, I said, have a good night, and he stopped dead in the doorway of our dorm and turned around and like made very direct eye contact with me and was like, you have a good night too. And I remember thinking, what is going on, and like looking behind me being like, who the heck is he talking to? I've never seen this guy before. So needless to say, I was not in a point in my life that I was ready to be in a relationship, let alone like talk to a guy. So he tried to find other opportunities to talk to me that year, and I pretty much literally would turn the other direction and like run away anytime I saw him on campus. So I guess it was like a year and a half later that we saw each other again.
And mutual friends like party, and you're like, hey, you, I remember you. And then we started talking again, and that's how we met.
So I guess it's just timing has to work itself out, but I remember seeing him the next time a year and a half later and thinking, I think that's that guy that sent me a Facebook message that I didn't respond to and was really creeped out by. But he's actually kind of cute. So we struck up a conversation, and I responded to his Facebook message a year and a half later, and we decided to get together and have coffee as our first date. So the rest is history, apparently. The next question is, how do you deal with cultural differences? So for those that don't know, Carlos is from Colombia, South America, and all of his family still lives there, and he has been here in the States since he was 17? 18. Originally came to go to a tennis academy, and then eventually got a tennis scholarship to play in college. So Colombia is who he is and is his identity, and the way that he was raised is very different than the way I was raised, which we've learned throughout our relationship that there are things that are just different, and I think that's been very eye-opening. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, definitely, we have different backgrounds and so forth, but the main thing is that we have been open to differences. Just don't be stuck in your own way. Understanding there's, different people in the world, different ways to do things, different ways to approach matters. So that was something cool that we both had in common, that we're always open to something different. So I think that make everything a little bit more smooth. Also being respectful. When something is not the same as yours, you may not share it, but you don't have the right to respect it. So you have to respect it, even though you don't necessarily do things the same way and so forth. So it was cool because we both were open-minded. So I think the way we deal with it is just being open to try different things and be flexible and enjoy both cultures. It was not easy for me at the beginning also to adapt myself to the United States culture, but I was open to it. So
I think too, it's yes, we have cultural differences, but it's really not very much different than having differences between human beings in any relationship. Even two people who grew up in the same town with maybe very similar socioeconomic conditions could be very different human beings who have to learn how to communicate well and work through differences and things like that. I think, like you said, we would like to say we're both pretty open-minded individuals and really enjoy trying new things and stepping outside our comfort zone, experiencing new cultures, and I think that really unites us and ties us together in a lot of ways.
There are things that sometimes come to a hard stop. You really don't like. It's the truth, but those moments you kind of just have to be, hey, dude, it's not my culture, and I'm not gonna embrace it necessarily, but I'm gonna have to respect it because it would be a lie to say that everything has been like sunshine and rainbows,
Right.
culturally wise, but
There are things that are very tough, and we've been together for about 4 years, and we've grown so much and learned so much from each other in those 4 years, but there's so much more to still grow and learn from each other, which is the exciting thing. I think life would be very boring if we had everything figured out. But I think too, it's deciding what's worth arguing about versus what is something that you're willing to compromise on, because the benefit of like loving and respecting the other person, even if it's like maybe not super comfortable for you or not something that you would like naturally gravitate to, picking and choosing those things will really help to lead to like a more smooth relationship. And I've learned so much about him and his culture, and I think that I've grown a lot because of that. It stretched me outside my own boundaries, and I wouldn't want to go back to the way I was before. I like having my mind expanded and always being challenged. So not too much different than any other kind of differences.
every family has their own culture, so regardless if you're from the same country or not, there's always going to be like cultural clashes. So
I think the biggest thing too, which again I would say is less of a cultural difference and more of just like a different background difference, is my family tends to be like pretty quiet. My parents are soft-spoken people. We never really had arguments in the house. It was which is not necessarily a good thing. I think we sometimes should have hashed things out when it was more of just like a passive-aggressive way of handling differences. So me coming from that background, Carlos comes from a very different family, and pretty much as polar opposite as you can get.
Yeah, we make sure we speak our minds. So, just very vocal family. 5 conversations happening at the same time. Everybody makes sure that give their opinion and put their point of view on the table. So it would be a lie to say that we don't like arguing, because we do. We argue, but we're just not in a negative setting. We just like really wrestle with ideas and are very vocal about it. So.
And that's been that. I think that was a big challenge for us, where I would want to just like take the road of least resistance. So if we had a disagreement about something, I would much rather just say, it doesn't matter, whatever you want is fine. And Carlos really challenged me to speak my own mind and have opinions and vocalize those opinions. Even if he disagreed, it would still allow me to voice myself and make sure that I'm heard, and ultimately make sure that we're being respectful to each other and working together as a team, rather than like one person kind of like leading the way or making all the decisions or something like that. And I think vice versa, you've learned that like I'm not always ready and willing to like have an argument discussion about something. Sometimes I just don't want to talk about it. And I think you've been very respectful in that sense of like when it may be natural to you to argue something out, you'll take a step back and just let me be a little bit, which is great. And that's kind of like the balance that we find in our relationship over time. So the next question is, are you close with your soon-to-be in-laws? Thankfully, yes, I would say. Something that, presents a little bit of a unique dynamic is that I don't speak Spanish fluently at all. I can carry on a pretty simple conversation, and I can understand and follow along, but because of that, my communication with Carlos's family has been, I think, a little bit limited, and that's tough. I obviously am hoping to get to a place where I am completely fluent and can grow a lot closer to them on that level, but I think that, actions speak louder than words in a lot of ways, and I've been fortunate to go to Colombia several times, spend time with his family, and they've come here to the US and spent time with my family, and even if we can't communicate easily with each other, just actions and displays of care and respect mean so much. And
yeah, we'll find a way to communicate. Of course, it will be better if we'll all speak the same language, but really, it's the feelings that you're portraying with just with your actions and the environment that you're creating. So it's been very good. It's been very good.
My parents love Carlos so much. Sometimes I think they love him more than I do sometimes. But it's all good.
They're pretty chill sometimes. It's hard for me because I'm not chill, but they've been very sweet,
Another question is, are you planning on sharing your finances or combining them or keeping them separate when you get married, and how will you handle that?
Well, that's an ongoing discussion as of right now. We're probably leaning towards, combining everything, just because we believe in the family union. So I would say that's probably the way we would go. Probably the good example that both our sides of the family had, just strong family unity. So we believe in the family and we want to bet on the family. So the finances are one of the cores of a family. So
yeah, I would say one of our biggest similarities and something that's been really fundamental in our relationship is both of us are extremely close with our families. Family is everything, and we're very blessed in that way, that I think both of our parents set a really good example just in life in general, but also, in a good marriage, in responsible finances, in so many ways. So we fortunately have that to emulate, and we've talked a lot about money and finances in our relationship, and it's going to be an ongoing process, I think. But for us personally, we feel like it's probably more effective to join our finances together, kind of in a common effort to reach some shared goals rather than keeping them separate. But that could change and evolve as we dive into our marriage, and I don't really think there's any right or wrong way to handle that. It's more of just what's personally best for you and your relationship, what will make you both feel the most comfortable and in control, so that it's really a shared effort, whether or not you're keeping them separate or you're joining them together.
Depending on the time and the situation, it may be actually more favorable to have different assets separately or different liabilities separately, or have them assets or liability together. It's just not there's not a right answer. It's important always to be open of how can you approach a specific situation and how can you get the best out of it, depending. So a lot of people is no, we want everything has to be separate, just because we want a clear cut of what is what, and other people is no, it must be together. It's not everything is black and white. So just depending on the situation, sometimes you may be open to the other alternatives. So
I think more than joining or separating your finances, the most important underlying thing, yes, is the goals, making sure that you're working towards the common goal.
Yeah.
Because if one person is prioritizing saving to start a business, and the other person is focusing on, just spending and enjoying life like here in the moment, and they're not really focused on that same goal, then that's where you're really going to have the most discord, whether or not your finances are joined or not. So,
Exactly.
a question that kind of goes along with that is, how soon after you were engaged did you sit down and discuss the budget? Which I'm guessing they're talking about the wedding budget. But we were actually, before we were even engaged, sat down and started talking about a personal future budget. Just, we were in a stage of our relationship where we pretty much knew we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. It was more of just a matter of timing of when exactly that would happen. Sorry, the phone's probably shaking a lot because of the road we're on. So we had kind of that personal budget discussion before we got engaged, and that actually was a really awesome thing to do, because it allowed us the time to sit down, hash out everything, put our priorities on the table, talk about what mattered to us versus what didn't, and just kind of like lay the foundation so that when we ended up getting engaged and we started talking wedding budget, because we have our life goals kind of already identified and laid out, that helps to put in perspective maybe what we're spending on a wedding. So
It's also, I believe it's almost silly, irresponsible, and naive not having a conversation with not necessarily your fiance or a girl that you think like a partner you think you're gonna be for your life, but like these are things that are important, and you cannot just assume things. And I mean, I know it's super hard to talk about these subjects, but I came from a family that finances were very openly discussed. So for me, it was very important that I had that environment for me to discuss my finances and my partner's finances, because it was kind of like the example that I had from my parents. Because like it or not, finances are something that is, one of the cores of every family. So it will be just irresponsible you not even putting the time and the effort to hash some of these topics out. So,
and I think what's important to note there is the fact that while it's so important to talk finances with your significant other, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy at all.
Delicate subject.
And while he came from a family that really talked very openly about finances, I did not. It was the exact opposite, where we really never talked about money. And both of our parents are very wise financially and good stewards, but just had a very different approach with how they handled that with our family. So could we have talked openly about our finances in our first year of dating? Probably not. But fortunately, through time, we grew to be more and more comfortable, and Carlos was really the one that made it a priority for us to have those discussions. And it was really uncomfortable for me at first, but I started to understand more and more the value of having those discussions. And because of that, that's where now we've been, I think, very open and just built a foundation of trust to feel comfortable sharing what's important to each of us and how we want to prioritize those goals financially. So, yeah, this is important to note too. Are your families helping financially for the wedding? Yes, fortunately they are, which I know is not the case for everyone's situation, and I feel very blessed to say that our families are willing to contribute. So that's been something that we were fortunate of, and was part of the discussion of the wedding budget from the beginning was, how much are we comfortable spending? How much can we personally contribute? And another element to it all is we're going to have a wedding ceremony both in the U.S. and in Colombia. So we're basically planning 2 weddings, and I would say that I'm taking a little bit more of the reins of coordinating things here because I know more of the area, but Carlos is still helping me very much with all the details, and then he's taking more of the reins with planning the wedding there since he's obviously more comfortable with finding locations and discussing costs with different vendors and things like that. So it's definitely been a joint effort all around. I think our families are, very willing to be involved, but no one is trying to plan our wedding for us necessarily. They're just very supportive of what we have in mind and what we want to do. So that's been great.
Something that I believe is important on that subject is that you have to respect the approach of both sides of the family, even on helping or on not helping. I believe that my parents don't have the right to help, or I don't expect to be helped either. So if they decide to help, it's their decision, they work their money, they saved it, and then they decide to support it. I have to be respectful of the support as well. I have to be respectful if they don't, because at the end it's me and Kaitlyn that are getting married, not them. So just it's important to be mindful of that, either if there is or if not, there is not. At the end of the day, I believe I'm not it's not that they must help you, or they must not help you. So you just have to be open and respectful with either or.
That's so true. And I think Carlos and I are, in our relationship are we really try to save as much money as possible and live below our means, because we just understand that money is one of the greatest resources, and to have the freedom to do the things that we want to do in life, we want to save as much as we can now. And so with that approach, I think we both would have been comfortable doing, a really relatively small ceremony, or just doing a very small wedding. However, also just understanding the perspectives of our families. I know for my family specifically, the idea of having a celebration and bringing all of our friends and family together to acknowledge these 2 people coming together and declaring this lifelong commitment is really important to them and sentimental to them to have that experience and to have everybody there. So from their perspective, they were willing to help us maybe cover costs that if it was just the 2 of us and we didn't care, we probably wouldn't do. But we understand that it's a big deal to the family, and obviously we're so grateful for anything that they're willing to contribute, and we'd love to spend time with as many of our loved ones, friends and family that we can. So definitely being open to not expecting something, but just understanding where someone's coming from and how much they're willing to contribute, and just being grateful for whatever that may be, even if it's nothing. Because ultimately it's family, and you don't want to ruin family relationships over one day, even though it's a very big day, obviously. Another question is, are you planning on settling down in Michigan or moving to Texas or doing something else? I think we're very free birds, free spirits. I don't think we have a full plan laid out by any means. Michigan is where we need to be for the time. It's just where the most opportunities lie for both of us. what the future holds, we don't know. We don't have a specific goal. I think the biggest factor is we both are just so close with our families, and ideally would want to be as close to them or have as easy of access to get there as possible.
Yep.
So living in Colombia is definitely an option, something that we both would for sure consider doing. Carlos loves Colombia, it's his home, and that's absolutely understandable. And I am very open to living and really just being with him wherever he is. But I also love traveling. I love being in different cultures. So the idea of living there is also something that I'm very open to. And we've obviously talked about a lot. But as far as timing to any of that, we don't know. We're just really trying to enjoy the here and now and take life as it comes and just follow the opportunities where they lie.
That's it.
That's it. That's kind of the majority of the questions. Plus, we are already 30 minutes into this video and probably don't want to make it too much longer. So if there were some other questions that we can definitely get answered just through Messenger or some other means. We're looking forward to doing more videos around the wedding series for Face the Fear. So I'll continue to do some vlog style videos like this one if you guys liked it. I'll be diving more into kind of how we design our wedding budget, as well as some tips and tricks that I've learned so far to save money along the way. But let us know your feedback. If there's some specific topic regarding wedding planning or regarding kind of starting out financially as newlyweds that you want us to cover, we can dive into it and hopefully get some good, relevant information that will be helpful for those of you watching. So thanks again for watching this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that fun stuff. And until next time, we will see you next time. Bye!